Hey folks, here's a quick video about a suspension, how to set up your suspension. This is a suggestion, an idea for how you might set up your suspension on your Axial SCX10II to get the kind of performance that I'm getting. And I'm getting unbelievable performance, folks, from the suspension on this truck. Now, I just posted a video yesterday of this truck running at high speed on 3S. Now, it's not as high speed as running 3S. It's not as high speed as running a truck on 3S with a brushless motor, but it's pretty dang high speed for a brushed motor and for a crawler. Quite high speed. So anyway, I'm running this truck pretty dang fast on a 3S battery yesterday in the snow, and the video is done in slow motion so that you can see when the truck is turning to the right, turning to the left, or doing like a chicane, right and then left. You can see extremely well how the suspension is behaving on this truck. And it's very, very firm, and that when it turns sharp right or sharp left, there's only a limited amount of lean, no more than I want. And you can turn super sharp, super fast, and this thing will just perform, including in snow, as you'll see if you watch the video. Furthermore, the front to back is even and firm enough that even going over some seriously bumpy terrain, the suspension takes up about 95% of the shock, and then there's only about a 5% of the nose and the tail of the truck going up and down. It's very scale and very effective. It's very high performance, the way I've got the suspension set up on this truck. And also there's just like on an airplane, there's some torque roll when you gun the throttle on an RC airplane. There's some torque roll to the right, as I recall. Same thing on a crawler, especially when it's sitting up high like this one is. There's some torque roll to the right, which doesn't look very scale, and it actually makes the truck perform differently when going right turning rather as opposed to left turning, or right circles as opposed to left circles. So what I've done to my suspension makes it so it's just right. It's perfectly balanced front to back, left to right, whether you're turning right or left. There's no torque roll influence. Again, and there's a great deal of shock absorption from the shocks, a great deal. So this truck performs like $1,000,000. So I really recommend, if you like the Axial SCX10II, even if you have one, or you're considering getting one, or you just like good crawling videos, if you watch that video of this thing performing in slow motion, you can really see what that suspension and the way I've got it set up and the stock tires are doing. It's just an incredible performing truck. So one of the very key parts of that, and let me get the video light on, one of the key parts of that, very key, is shock spring tweaking. All right, so out of the box, your shock spring, there's your shock spring. Now I painted mine red-orange just to make it zippier looking. But out of the box, now there's two things that determine the how firm or soft your suspension is. The two things is your spring tension, right? How much tension that spring is providing, and the other one is, you can see dead center screen. There's a lock nut, dead center screen, right? Dead center screen. Let me get a pen for a pointer. Hold on, folks. Here we go. All right, so focus. There we go. So right there is a lock nut. Now, if you turn that nut counterclockwise, the lock nut will go up here, this way, and that will decrease tension on the spring, and that makes the spring softer. If you run the lock nut down a lot, as you can see, from here all the way down to where I've got it, that increases shock tension a lot. So I've got mine set up, as you can see, just about as, I think each one is screwed down as far as you can go before you run out of threads, just about. So I've got maximum lock nut tension, again, by running this down very low down on the thread, so it's just about as far as you can go with some extra threads, so it doesn't come off the threads. So that's part of it, super tensioning the springs by using the lock nut and turning it until you get it all the way down here to the maximum low position, which gives you maximum spring tension. The other thing, and this is extremely important, is I removed the springs. I increased the length of each spring by about a third by pulling on the spring. Pulling on the spring separated these coils, made the coils farther apart, made the spring about a third longer, so that when I installed the spring on here, and screwed on my lock nut and brought the lock nut down all the way to the maximum tension position, I've got much more firm suspension. I've got it firm because the lock nut's all the way down in the maximum position, and I've got it firm because my spring is about 2/3 more firm than it was before because I've lengthened it by about 1/3. All right. Now that doesn't make sense probably math-wise why I increased the length by 1/3, but it's 2/3 more stiff. But that's about the way it equates, folks. Using maximum spring tension setting with the lock nut and lengthening the spring by 1/3 makes these springs, in my opinion, the perfect amount of tension. Okay? Yeah, perfect amount of tension, in my opinion. And of course, you can of course, you can fine tune it to your liking. If you want, if you do what I've done and you find the springs are a little bit stiff, you can shorten the springs. But I think I already mentioned. But if I didn't, you can do it incrementally, right? You can. I would recommend putting your tension adjustment lock nut all the way down as I do. But you can play around with your spring tension. Start off by lengthening your spring a little bit, not the full 1/3. See if you like that. If it's not firm enough, then stretch out your spring a little bit more, and keep lengthening the spring until it's got the firmness that you want. But what I have here, if you watch that video, that slow-mo video of this truck romping in snow, very uneven snow and going fast cornering, sliding on the corners, drifting, throwing up snow like crazy into the camera. Anyway, if you watch that, this thing looks like a real truck, a high-performance, full-scale truck, off-road truck, going out and raising hell in the snow. Okay, so there you go, folks. That's a tip for you if you want to consider it for vastly improving the suspension on this truck, Axial SCX10, from the way it is out of the box. Increase spring tension by lengthening it, and increase spring tension by adjusting the lock nut all the way to the lowest position and maximum tension. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. Have a great day. Signing off in 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, one more thing. The other extremely important thing is you've got to monitor the amount of oil inside your shocks, because at the very top there's a cap on the shock, and you unscrew that cap, and that reveals the interior of the shock, if you will, and there's shock oil in there. And normal use, the shock oil ends up coming out and onto the metal shaft of the shock, and so a little tiny bit at a time, you are using and losing shock oil. So on a regular basis, you want to check your shock oil level, keep them full, and I recommend 40 weight low C oil. 40 weight low C shock oil is what I recommend. That is the other factor. Use that 40 weight, keep your shocks fully topped off, and along with what I've already described, and man, you're going to have yourself a truck. Thanks for watching. Bye.